the kids are always the wild card now because they're constantly evolving.
So did those guys really name their app after a meme? Huh? Buckle up, fellow kids. It's time for FounderQuest.
I'm the co-pilot today, right?
Co-pilot, yeah. So today we're flying without Star. Star is not feeling well, and so today it is just the two of us.
And I have been on vacation. Well, I am on vacation.
Yeah,
sticking my head up.
We are so into FounderQuest that we even come in from vacation to record an episode.
Yeah, it's nice to keep the schedule. Like, if I don't know, we have been trying to take a lot of vacations. So if we like didn't record every time one of us was on vacation, then I feel like we wouldn't have a very consistent schedule.
That's true. Yeah. So how's your vacation treating you?
All right. It's really a staycation so far.
I think all vacations are staycations for a while.
I've looked at bookings to go places. And I'm just like, I don't want to go anywhere. Like, I don't want to deal with any of the stuff that's going on right now or take the risk or even, and then if we did go somewhere, we still have two toddlers. Like, it's not, we're better equipped here at least to manage two toddlers who are bored. And there's only so much hiking you can do with a 2-year-old. So yeah. So
no trips to Disneyland this summer, huh?
Not so far, unless my in-laws decide that they want to watch the kids for a few days or something, and we could get away. But that's not looking too likely at the moment.
Well, I'll tell you what, all you got to do is wait, 10 to 15 years, and it'll be great.
Right. only 10 to 15 years. Yeah. So I don't know. I've been eyeing a bass guitar for a while, and I'm trying to talk myself into finally buying it right now. But I don't know. I'm still debating, but there's a good chance I'll pick one up.
Yeah. I mean, a pandemic is a great time to learn new things, right?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are thinking that way. It's driving different parts of the economy.
Now, you already play the keyboard, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I play piano and guitar. I had a bass for a while. It was borrowed, but I liked it. I liked having it around just to kind of plunk around on it. So. Yeah. But now I want to get a big stack for my garage, because I don't have enough cool stuff in there already. So
need to take out some extra insurance on the stuff that's in your garage.
I know. if that garage burns down, I'm done for.
Yeah, you got to declare that stuff, man. Those insurance companies, they don't mess around.
Yeah. Speaking of, how's your bathroom situation?
Yeah, my bathroom is still not great. It's amazing how unresponsive contractors can be. I really don't get it. I sent out a bunch of requests to people hey, here's my situation, and I want to hire someone to help me fix it. Mm-hmm. And I would say 70% of the people just didn't even respond. I don't know what their sales process is like, or if they're super busy right now, or what the deal is. But it's how do you stay afloat with a business when you're not responding to leads? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, so still haven't selected a contractor, so the chances of me actually just doing it myself are increasing as the days go by. I've been watching the YouTube videos to learn how to
really,
learn how to install a new tub, things like that. And so my confidence is growing slowly, so I just might actually do it. We'll see.
I've had the same thoughts a few times. I should really learn how to do stuff around my house if I'm going to be a homeowner. But, and then I've also had the thought that maybe I shouldn't own a house and I should just be renting in the first place. There's that whole camp that I don't think they're not wrong.
So, the whole economic theory of, you should maximize, your, I don't know what the exact phrases. I can't remember what the term is, but basically like you should focus on what you're good at and pay people to focus on what they're good at. Right. And so that the economist in me is arguing for me not to do my bathroom myself. Cause like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like
pay someone to do it. They can do a better job than I can.
It's like comparative advantage, or it's the whole specialization thing. And same.
But on the flip side, there's the whole like, it would be kind of cool. Like, hey, I did that, right?
Yeah.
I put that in there, and there may be a mistake here and there, but that's my sweat and tears and probably blood.
It's also like the knowing how to at least do some of the smaller things would be useful, because at some point, like finding good contractors and then managing them and getting the work actually done that's a whole job in itself. I feel like.
Wait, are we talking about bathrooms, or are we talking about software development?
Yeah, I guess it applies. That applies everywhere. Yeah, like the whole like management aspect of any kind of contractor project. At some point, it really does feel like it would be more efficient just for me to do it, if I learned how or something. But
so pro tip for all those freelancers out there is, A, be responsive to leads. B, maintain, good communication so that you don't have to put a lot of load on the person that's hiring you.
Yeah. That whole like management overhead thing is huge. Like I run across it very infrequently in contractors I work with in both industries. But yeah, if you could, that's like a superpower, having that skill of like managing yourself and actually like driving the communication with the client and making sure their needs are met and all of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we've had projects from time to time I know that you've discussed that you think, well, it'd be nice to do this, but I don't have a lot of time, or I could hire it out, but then I have to have all the time to manage hiring it out. So it's a big deal for actually getting out that work to have someone who can actually just do it and not have to spend all your time managing them. It's
tough. It's also tough when you can, like when you possess a lot of like specialized knowledge that needs to be transferred to whoever does the work. And at least if I have like specific, like if I have a specific way I want it to happen, like if I'm a perfectionist and I want it to happen my way, but not do it personally, maybe that's a problem with me versus just like giving up and letting someone else solve the problem like their own way. But there is like knowledge transfer that can take time depending on what the job actually is. Like, I think that's one argument for hiring someone who's going to stick around longer and hopefully like absorb and be able to like utilize that information for a longer period of time versus like they have to learn all this special stuff about our business and problems, and then they move on in a couple months and you got to teach someone else how to do it.
I saw a tweet this week that is related to that. I thought it was interesting, and I'll have to see if I can go and find it again for the show notes, but I'm going to roughly paraphrase it because I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was the thrust of the message was be satisfied with 80%. And the detail was, so you get someone who can do the job 70% of the way. You teach them the knowledge that they need to get another 10%. So get them up to 80%, and then just accept that. Like, you would do a 100% job, right? But someone else can do a 70% job. And then if you get them up to speed a bit so that they can do some of what you do, then settle for that.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
So you can't always use that, but I think and I have the same issue. Like, I'm a perfectionist, and delegation is an issue for me. Because like, if someone does something, I'm like, well, I would have done it this way, or, and I think one of the secrets is learning to have more acceptance of, I think being married is helpful in that respect, especially having kids. Cause like you have to learn, hopefully at some point you learn that like there are different ways of doing things, right? There doesn't have to be a right way. Just because, I have a way I like to do it doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess
I imagine that's going to come up a lot more frequently in the future as I actually start like trying to get my kids. Right now, they're like, the level they're at is like they're starting to be able to pick up their toys if I stand over them and like micromanage them for 2 hours.
Yeah, I most recently thought about this for myself when I was loading up the dishwasher, getting it ready to run. And, my sons who are teenagers are, they put dishes in the dishwasher in a way that I wouldn't, right? And sometimes I look at those things, I'm like, how do you think this is going to get clean?
It's like, good thing you bought a good dishwasher, I hope.
But so I just have to like relax a bit. It's like, it's okay. It's like, it'll be fine.
That's the dishwasher has been built to like handle all types of people or all types of person.
Right.
Yeah, the one that jumped into my mind was picking up the dog turds in the yard.
Oh,
on that one,
wrong way for that.
On that one, I don't care. Like as long as like they aren't in the yard anymore. Like my kids, I'm looking forward to the day that I can delegate that task. They can take however long they want.
Nice. So I haven't been on vacation this week. I've been actually doing some work. And surprise, surprise, I actually haven't been doing a lot of compliance work, which has been nice change of pace.
Mm-hmm, I bet.
I've been working on the side project that we've talked about a couple of times, and it's coming along nicely. It's almost ready to show, but I thought we could talk about it a little bit today and maybe invite some people to come and check it out if they want.
Yeah.
So I don't want to reveal the domain name just yet because I'm not ready for people just to sign up and like bang it. I want to like have more of a, a white glove experience for the first few people. But I will say it is related to webhooks and sending post requests. So it doesn't have to be just a webhook, capitalized. It could be like, I don't know, if you're posting something to Jira, because just about every system has a REST API where you send a post request.
Like for an integration or something.
Yeah. So we have a lot of those at Honeybadger where, things like Jira and GitHub and Trello, where we're posting stuff all the time. We have a bunch of outbound requests like that. And one of the inspirations for this project was Honeybadger and just dealing with sending webhooks. And I don't know if most of our listeners have played with like Stripe. Like if you integrate with Stripe, they have an option where you can receive webhooks, like when people update their subscription or change their payment information or whatever. And Stripe has a fantastic setup for their webhooks. Like
really kind of the gold standard of webhooks,
I think in
my opinion,
yeah. If your server doesn't happen to respond properly, like with a successful okay kind of thing, then it'll retry. It'll back off and retry over a period of days. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had that same kind of thing, but didn't have to build it?
Yeah.
Right. And we've built that for Honeybadger, but it's kind of a slog. It's not really fun work. And so I thought, man, developers need this. And so that's why I built that as a side project. Started that a couple months ago, I guess, and been working on it here and there. I love using it. It's to the point that I've been able to play with it. We don't have it plugged into Honeybadger just yet. I think that's going to be next week, but
it's solving some of those pain points for you though.
Yeah. So like you don't have to worry about a queue because like this is going to have a queue for you. It's going to do the retries for you if that's necessary. I mean, the happy path is like you send a request and it just gets delivered and no problems. But if it doesn't go that way, if there's a bad response, then it'll retry, it'll back off, it'll retry for a period of days. But the one thing that I'm really looking forward to adding Honeybadger that we don't currently have that this does is it has a history of all the requests and the payloads that got sent and the responses that came back. And that's just fantastic for debugging. Like, if you're sending a webhook, if you don't track, what got sent, then you don't know. You can't report that back to your customer. And if you don't track the response, then you can't, did it actually get there? Or you're not really sure.
Yeah. What about like tracking, like failures and retries? Is that in the history as well?
It is. Yeah. Okay. So every attempt, it adds, basically there's a list of responses. And so, if we got, some 500 response, we'll record the header that came back and the response body that came back. So that'll all be in the history of each request. Yeah.
That's really, I've had that. I think I've run into that issue before where it's frustrating. Like if you're using a webhook API or something and something doesn't happen or an event doesn't fire and you're like scratching your head, trying to figure out like what went wrong. Was it on my end? Like, did I like maybe an exception occurred that I didn't track for some reason, or like, you know, or maybe it was just a silent failure of some kind. Maybe I didn't like check the right like event name in the payload or something, and it fell through a case statement. Being able to go, and I think like Stripe and GitHub both have that feature, and I've used them on both, like where they show the actual attempts and retries and failures and stuff, and that's super useful.
It is, yeah, really handy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing that I wanted to have in this, and I think developers will love having that and not having to build it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's kind of specialized, like the way we've currently solved the whole. Like we rely on Sidekick's exponential, like back off and retry like on an exception case. And I think we just like raise an exception if it's not a successful post or whatever. But this is actually like specialized, like responding to the actual like HTTP response that it's working off of, I would imagine.
Yep. Which
is like tailor made for the use case of delivering webhooks and all that.
Right. And one of the things that we do at Honeybadger is if, for example, if we're sending a webhook to someone's server and it doesn't respond with a success after, I think it's 3 or 4 tries, we just stop. We don't keep on hammering that thing. And we disable that particular integration in Honeybadger so that, and we flag it for the user saying, hey, this thing is not responding, so we're not going to send any more stuff to it. And this new service has a callback where it actually will send you a webhook.
Okay, so this has some webhooks.
If something fails.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like a webhook inception, I guess.
So are we using this are we using this on itself? Do we have another service that we're using to send these webhooks? Kind of like we have Honeybadger.
Yeah, it does use itself to send those reports
nice
back. Yeah.
That's great. I love it.
So even the reports back have retries.
So we've already got 2 use cases for this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cool. One of the things that I wanted to do, I wanted to build something that didn't require a whole lot of configuration up front. So what you can do is that you can actually provision this, like, I don't know, via Heroku maybe. You get back the API key and you get the URL that you need to post your webhooks to. And then you don't need to configure that. You can include in the headers like the target URL. So basically, this is like a proxy that records and retries for you. And you don't have to set it up ahead of time saying, so you can use this for...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So like for one-offs. Anywhere.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because no one, like, you don't want to have to go and configure, like set up what your event is going to be beforehand. Like if you had to do that for every single thing that you relay or whatever, that would get a little tedious, I imagine. Yeah, exactly. We probably don't have a like client library for this yet. I imagine it's probably an HTTP API, but like I could see like a Ruby client library, for instance, or Elixir or PHP or whatever. There's a lot of opportunity in there to, like, for example, like, because right now, like you probably, it's like sending an email. You're not going to want to like do that in process in most cases. Like if someone like signs up for your web app or something, like you're not going to send that like blocking the connection while it's sending an email or delivering a webhook. But in the same way that we could potentially just like use an in-process thread or something to like perform some work, you could easily use that in this case to post the webhook to this new third-party service, because the service has all of the retry logic. So as long as it actually gets the initial request, then it's going to take it from there. So you probably don't even need to have like a true job system for sending the initial request even. I imagine that's probably something we can build into our future client library or SDK or whatever we're going to call it. Yeah. One of the goals for this was for it to be fast enough so that you wouldn't have to queue on your end, right? You can just go ahead
send it.
And
just send it. And so we're using serverless. We're using AWS Lambda. We're using DynamoDB. So you send the payload to us. It's of course infinitely scalable because of AWS, and then we persist that really quick. And just this morning I was thinking, okay, now how do we deploy this for multi-region so that you can have an endpoint that's close to you or close to your app, right? And I've got a plan for that. So I think we might even launch with multi-region support, so you can choose which region you want to deploy to.
Nice. It's very cool.
it's pretty close. It's cool. So
can our tagline be "Send it"? By the way,
send it.
Send it.
Just like ship it. Now it's send it.
It's like ship it, but send it. Yeah, that's
yeah. I like that. Yeah. +1. Yes, let's do that. So this week I've been playing with the Heroku provisioning and got that to work. So what I could really use, if any of our listeners are interested in checking it out, I could really use at least 10 people who would like to try out the service via Heroku, because to get an add-on listed with Heroku, you have to have 10 testers try it before they'll put it in beta stage where it can show up in their marketplace. So if you want to try out our new hook sending service, please email me at ben@honeybadger.io and I will get you squared away. It should be ready by the time this episode drops.
Nice.
We're already deployed. We have a production environment already. It's just, I want to, again, do that white glove service so that I know things are working properly for the first few customers before I open the floodgates.
Yeah, having this has been all you, and I noticed Kevin has been jumping in a little bit the past couple of weeks, which is awesome. I wanted to make time to check it out and do some work on it. I have not even hardly. I looked at the README or something. So I am excited to hopefully be one of those testers. That I have a couple little Heroku apps that I might be able to play around with or something. So sign me up.
All right. So you're tester number 1.
When I get back though, I'm excited for, I'm excited to work on the marketing and, start getting into this project a little bit. I really like the idea of basically if Stripe is the gold standard for webhooks or even GitHub has pretty good webhooks, this allows you to have, you are now the gold standard as well.
Right.
It allows you to give that Stripe, because Stripe has been known for their developer experience. That's everyone knows Stripe is they have an amazing developer experience. It's what their business is based on. So especially if you're a developer, if you have developers who are your customers or your users, that's one area that you can really, you gain a lot with those little fine touches. Basically,
definitely,
because we notice that and we appreciate it, and it's not something you want to,
Yeah, it's funny that I didn't really think about this until just now when you were saying that, but developers really, their job is to pay attention to details, right? I mean, they have to make things work exactly, and so we really appreciate when we have a service that has paid attention to details, right, and providing those little niceties, and totally.
Yep. Documentation also, that's the other thing that always comes to mind. And even with Stripe, their documentation has always been fantastic. And I assume we will have great documentation for this service once it launches. But that's another angle that's crossed my mind. When you were telling me about in the past, also helping people provide that documentation on their webhooks. Not that this will cover that necessarily, but that's something we can definitely work into the whole onboarding process. You've set up your webhooks. Now you should teach your users how to actually make the most of them and use them, to build things. Cause that's really what it's all about. It's what are you going to do once you receive these webhooks? So it's it's the same idea as documenting your API, your webhooks, your webhooks are a part of your API. So there's always,
I'm looking forward to having you jump in on that because you've done a lot of work on that with Honeybadger, and
I still have a lot of work to do, but it's
we still have those areas where it's really wish we would have designed the payload this way instead of that
right way. But again, maybe that's why we're building some of this stuff a little bit to kind of create a better abstraction for what we currently have. Now if you can solve versioning for me, then take my money. So, because that's the biggest issue with our webhooks currently is that it's on a super old version of our API payload, and I would we eventually want to migrate to a newer event format.
It would be pretty cool. I'm just going to spitball here, but it'd be pretty cool. We're thinking about Stripe. We're thinking about webhooks. Stripe's API versioning is the best.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a better example of versioning for an API. So what if we could do something like that, where you your first receive a webhook, you know what version you received, right? And if a new version comes along, then you get an option to upgrade at some point. Just like with Stripe.
That would be awesome.
Stay on an old version or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to think about that some.
But yeah, write that one down. That would be really cool. Yeah. Cause the way we would approach it in our current app, I think, is just build a new webhook integration that new people can opt into, but we probably wouldn't, it would be a larger project for us to actually go and implement some sort of like opt-in for current users. Like I think like what we would do is leave people on whatever they're currently using and support it forever. And then, move new people who set up a webhook integration are going to get the new version. But yeah, it would be awesome if we could actually encourage people to migrate to to gain whatever benefits we've added.
Right. Yeah. I'll think about that some.
So maybe V2.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that Stripe's webhooks do change based on the version of the API that you're choosing. Because when we did our Stripe upgrade recently, like those payloads changed a bit that were coming into us. So
yeah,
this product won't have a request API like that, like Stripe does, but we could still do a versioning thing where you choose your new version and then you start getting new payloads. Like
my favorite webhooks to use are always the ones that like mirror whatever the REST API is. Like, so in the documentation, if you have your API objects documented, for like, say like a user, like you're going to fetch your users from your web app. You hit like the, API v1 users endpoint or something, and you get back a list of users. If there's a user involved in like a webhook event and that user is going to be communicated through that webhook, like send the same documented payload of that, whatever that object is. Cause really you're just communicating in objects. And so if they should always match like the version on either side. Hopefully your API and your webhook objects are the same or working from the same spec, basically.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this new product does that with one exception. So we do store all the responses that come back when that webhook gets delivered. And those responses can be kind of large because you're talking about response headers and response bodies, which can be really big. So when I send the report of a webhook delivery, I send the same object that you would get back from the API minus that responses array. So there's just no point in sending it could be a huge, chunk of data.
Yeah, we've run into similar issues with our Honeybadger API and webhook formats. Like you're right. Like sometimes you want to, I guess like even in APIs themselves. That's one of the use cases for GraphQL, or one of the selling points, is that you can actually, like, the client can describe the form of the data that is needed, and then you only send that data specifically. It's not that you're sending a different type of object or format. It's just that you're like, the user can tell you what it needs out of that object, so that you're not sending data that's not just going to get thrown away anyway or never read. So it's like you're able to send like a partial representation of that object. And as long as the user knows that those other keys aren't going to exist or they're not looking for them, then I guess it's okay. Something along the lines of that is, I think we've explored a little bit. What's the JSON query thing that
JMES path.
Yeah, that's some pretty cool stuff.
That is some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we use that internally, like for our PagerDuty integration. They recently changed their API so that they don't want payloads that are very large.
Yeah.
And our payloads can be very large. And so what we did is we added JMES path filtering to the payload that we send. So we just filter out stuff that you just don't care about for PagerDuty, right? And yeah, maybe we could use that combine that with the versioning thing. So you could post whatever you want to the webhook endpoint, but then it gets filtered for an older API version, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It'd be cool. Seems like the same. It's solving a similar problem though. Like you want the same object, but you don't want all of it necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, and it can do more than that. I mean, it can transform. Basically, it's a transformation.
Yeah.
Language. It's not just pulling the stuff out, but it's we could do that.
It's nice to already have like a V2 list. Like when you can't stop thinking of like new things to add to it, you're probably onto something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it gives you, I guess, a little more interest in it rather than just like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we can do this and then we can do that. And, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to try it out for the first time when I return. I'm trying to stay away from the computer. It took me a couple days as usual to, get into that vacation mindset and pull myself off of Twitter. Which I won't go on a Twitter rant. But it's nice to be off the computer and have that headspace back, to think about other things.
Totally. Well, speaking of Twitter though, I hate to draw you in, but
what's the latest? Give me the dirt.
Can we just revisit for a moment the hay thing from our episode last week where we were talking about hay?
I saw our title today that go out for our podcast, and it's like extremely like it's total clickbait, and I bet everyone will listen to it. It's great.
I did not actually expect Basecamp to turn around that quickly. I didn't expect them to work over the weekend.
Yeah, because you called it. You totally called that move, which was basically like, well, we're going to roll out the business version, which was part of it. That wasn't all of it.
Right. But the other part was the free part, which I didn't. Yeah. That came out of left field for me. And I thought that was really cool. So props to them for coming up with a clever way around that.
It's a unique solution. Yeah.
Yeah. So for anybody who wasn't paying attention, it was if you get the app and you don't have an account, they'll create a throwaway email address for you that you can try for 14 days. And so you can actually download the app, you can use it. So it solves the problem that Apple had about, it's a non-functioning app, basically, if you don't have an account. So I thought that was a really clever approach to the problem. And of course, they're also doing the corporate thing, which will also help. But yeah, I thought that was cool.
That is cool.
Props to them.
Did you see, what was it? Buy the,
yeah.
I don't remember the domain, the TL. It was a weird one of the,
I can't remember either.
New TLDs.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like when you don't want to talk to anybody.
It's a good spoof.
That's an email service for contractors.
Right. Yeah.
They don't really want to talk to anybody.
Yeah. Totally. Like, yeah, they should rebrand themselves for like the service industry, like construction.
Exactly. I mean, they could set out the Service Pro,
Yeah. Or they could integrate with Yelp.
Yeah. Hey.
My favorite thing on that was like the little squiggly design arrow things, like because base camps are like all like, like handcrafted, like just beautiful drawings. And then they took like the arrow part of it, but then they just like scribbled down the page. Obviously someone put a lot of work into that landing page. And then the sign up button was actually a donation to, I think Black Girls Code, cool. One of those donation, like one of those things. And I thought that was really cool. So yeah, if you signed up for it, then the sign up is just to donate, which I think they're making a little bit of a statement there that, during the whole drama that was happening, it's like there are larger issues to think about. So I like that they kind of capitalized on that a little bit and helped to redirect the conversation a little bit.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Got to get my buy address.
Well, any exciting plans for your next week of vacation? Or are you just going to do more bumming around?
I think more of the same, probably. Yeah. We might, I don't know, maybe we'll go for a hike or something, or try to get out and do a little bit around here at least. But I'm hoping that the sun stays out, and honestly, it's nice. I like a 2-week vacation for that reason, because the first week is usually like trying to learn how to exist off of the internet. Mm-hmm. And then the second week is then like actual vacation. Cause by that point you're used to, a slower pace and not being constantly bombarded by information from all directions. And you start to be able to read a book again.
Well, cool. I guess we can wrap it.
Are you going to wrap it this time? Since you did the intro or whatever, do you want to, what do we?
Well, if I do the intro, does that mean you have to wrap?
Yeah, I can wrap. So This has been FounderQuest, and you can rate us on, what is it? Apple Podcasts is what we call it. Yeah. We would much appreciate your 5-star reviews and or ratings. And I don't know what else to say.
And do get in touch if you want to try our new,
yes,
our new product.
The most important thing is to email Ben at Honeybadger.io to try out. Well, I guess to get to gain the gold standard of webhooks for your web apps. So
to be as cool as Stripe.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Great job, Josh.
That's a wrap.
FounderQuest is a weekly podcast by the founders of Honeybadger. Zero instrumentation, 360-degree coverage of errors, outages, and service degradations for your web apps. If you have a web app, you need it. Available at honeybadger.io. Want more from the founders? Go to FounderQuestPodcast.com. That's one word. You can access our huge back catalog or sign up for our newsletter to get exclusive VIP content. FounderQuest is available on iTunes, Spotify, and other purveyors of fine podcasts. We'll see you next week.